Welcome back to another video tutorial brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. Today we're going to be talking about making buttons in Adobe Flash CS4, and to show you what we're going to do, we're going to make a very simple button, and I'll just open up the Swift file to show you what we're going to make. We're going to make a very simple button like this, that when you roll over it, it changes a little bit, and then when you click it, it goes to either an animation like mine or an image or whatever. And you can use these buttons to create an interactive portfolio, a website, or an interactive game, whatever your mind can dream up. Okay, and then it brings you back to the home screen there. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a new Flash file, and we're going to be working with ActionScript 2.0, so make sure that's selected. Click OK, and here's our stage and our timeline on the top. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to import into our library a button, or you can draw a button. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to use an image that I created in Illustrator. So I'll go to File, Import, and then I'll import to Library, and then there's our button. So I'll import it. Okay, and then there it is in our library. If your library is not up, you can go to Window and select Library and bring it up. Now we want to make sure that we're on the first layer, and we want to make sure that we've got a blank keyframe up there, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag that button over here to the center of our stage. Okay. Now the first thing we need to do is edit this button. So we're going to right click on it, and we're going to convert to symbol. Then there are three different symbols we can choose from. We're going to turn this into a button, so we'll select button. We can also name this if we want, and I'll name it button. Click OK. Now you'll notice in your library that now you have a button image and you have a button symbol. So we'll double click on the button symbol because we're going to edit it, and it isolates the button. You'll also notice that your timeline has changed up here. You've got commands for over, up, over, down, and hit. We're going to go ahead and put a blank keyframe in the over section, and we're going to put a blank keyframe in the hit section. Now, let me explain these things. Up is what the button looks like normally. Over is what the button's going to look like when someone scrolls over it with their mouse. Hit is the area that's going to be clickable inside of your button. Okay? So right now if we go over and hit, we have nothing down there. So we need to do something about that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this guy. So we'll copy it, and then we'll go in the over section, right click, paste in place, and then we'll do the same thing in the hit section, and we'll paste that in place. Alright, now we at least have a button through all three phases of our button. Okay. Now we want it to look different when a viewer goes over the top of it. So we will right click on the button, we're going to convert to symbol, and this time we're going to convert it to a graphic. This will allow us to change the properties and make the color a little different. So we'll click OK. And if your properties aren't up, you can go to Window and select Properties. Mine are already up over here. And under Properties, you'll want to go under Color Effect. Now let's slide this property panel over here so we can see what goes on. Under Color Effect, there are different things you can do. You can change the brightness, you can change individual threads of each one of the channels, red, green, and blue. We're just going to go to Tint, and we're going to change the tint. You can see automatically it's changed the color. Now you can slide this back and forth and change the tint of the color, or you can have a little bit more control and change it a little bit more in each one of the channels. It's up to you, whatever you do. This is a little bit different from our original blue, so that's good enough for me. Okay, so we'll close that. Alright. Now we can go back to our scene, and we can take a look at what we've got so far by exporting, and we've got our button, and you scroll over the top of it and it changes. Okay, and it's also telling me that area is clickable, but it goes to nothing right now, so we need to change that. So we'll close this. We're going to go up here, and we're going to create a new layer, and I'm going to go ahead and put a blank keyframe in frame number 2. Okay, that's pretty important. Make sure it's the next frame over. Alright, then I'm going to go ahead and put an action script in the first frame right here. This is also important. So I'm going to go ahead and put that action script. So I'm going to right click in that frame, select Actions. I'm going to click on this blue plus, go to Global Functions, And then I'm going to go to timeline control and select stop. This will tell the computer that we want to stop right there until another command is executed. Okay, so that's pretty important. Now let's go back to this. We're going to import the animation and put it on that keyframe. So to do that, we're going to go up to File, Import, Import Video, browse to find the file, and my file is right there. And then I'm going to select Embed FLV and SWF and play it in timeline. Next, next, finish. And then there's my animation on the stage. Okay. Now we need to go back and edit this button so that we can give it a command to go to frame number 2 when it is pushed, when it's clicked. So to do that, we're going to make sure that we're on the right layer. Go back into frame number 1, and I'm going to right click on our button, and I'm going to select Actions. Then I'm going to click on the blue plus again, Global Functions, Movie Clip Control, and then select On. And then we want it asks us what we want it to do on press, on release outside, roll over, roll out, whatever. We're going to select on release. So when the viewer releases the button, that's where we're going to have the action. So we'll select release. Then we'll click in the next little section right here, and we're going to go to global functions again, and then we're going to select timeline control, go to and play frame number 2. Okay. Now, if we were to play this now, and I'll go ahead and play it real fast. I'll go ahead and export it. Our movie will come up, and when we scroll over the top of it, it changes, and then when we push it, it goes to frame number 2 and plays. Now, automatically, since a Swift file is going to loop by nature, it would go back to our original button. But just to be safe, we want to code it so it will go back to that original button. So to do that, we're going to go all the way to the end of the movie file. I'm going to right click in the next possible area, and I'm going to put a blank keyframe. Then in there, I'm also going to add an action, and you guessed it, it's going to be a timeline control action. Go to and play, and that's going to be frame number 1 that's going to go back to and play. So now, automatically, when it gets to the end of our animation, it'll go back to the very beginning, back to here. Okay? Now, we need to tell our viewers a little bit what that button is all about. So to do that, I'm going to create a new layer here. And I'm going to go ahead and put a blank keyframe in frame number 2 because we only want to work with this first keyframe. And then I'm going to go to Tools. I'm going to bring up a little text area, and I'm going to name it Animation. And that will tell our viewers that they're going to be looking at a animation if they push on that button. And we'll just move it to be right on top of the button. And then there you have it. We have got our animation and our button finished. So we'll export it to take a final look at it. And you can be very creative with what you do with buttons. Like I said, these can be used to create games. Anything that requires some interactivity is great. So when we roll over the button, it changes the color. When we push the button, it goes to our animation. And then at the end of the animation, it will return back to our original screen with the one button. Now you can fill this up with all kinds of buttons. You could put all your artwork in this little Swift file and have a really nice interactive portfolio. Just using some simple ActionScript 2.0 in Flash CS4. I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com.